After everything was clarified and the plan was fixed, the small group split up. Sasha walked quickly past the closed doors and over the stone steps by the wall to the beach. There she would wait inconspicuously until the last chroma stars had disappeared in the sky and then take the form of a sea serpent. These aquatic creatures were enormously rare, beautiful, and their water-repellent fur was worth an incredible amount of money. Therefore, these successors of the ancient water dragons were often hunted and were already almost extinct, like their ancestors. The knights would no doubt get enough distraction, possibly even try to kill Sasha and leave their guard post completely, but the young woman could certainly defend herself well enough. The other three also started moving. Glaczio led Cheyenne and Adocaz past the large apartment building behind the restaurant and down a few stone steps to the beach. They were now at the end of the Beach of Light, because a few meters to the right, away from the girl, there was already a grassy hill. In the meantime, only 3 chroma stars were visible in the sky, so the surroundings were already dark. The healer stood next to Cheyenne, his eyes squinted, and apparently he had already a hard time seeing anything. He almost seemed to be a bit lost. Then Glaczio sighed and asked for his prodigy's help. "Oh well, Angel, my fate catches up with me once again. I only see black. Just now it was still going reasonably well. Can you find somewhere near here where it's possible to hide us from enemy eyes?" Cheyenne scanned the surroundings with her eyes and saw a large rock in the sand. She answered her companion. Yes, there's a big rock. We could hide behind it, but what's the point? The knights don't see us at all when it's so dark, and if you can't see anything anymore, they are no longer able to do so, and therefore wouldn't discover us." Glaczio shook his head and explained the situation. "Sweetie, I actually thought that would be logical, but either you haven't given it a thought yet, or you really can't figure it out. Be that as it may, I will explain it to you. You can see excellently at night, chosen one of darkness. Sounds logical in this context, doesn't it? But I don't see my own hand in front of my eyes or something when it's dark, as the chosen one of light. I also see fire and chroma street lamps only faintly in the darkness. It must be breathtaking to look at the world at night through your eyes. You can surely see every little detail. I would give anything to be able to see the beautiful night sky with all its special features from your point of view just once." Oh, sorry, I've digressed from the actual topic again. Because our perception of darkness is so special, we can't know how normal people see. By this I mean that it could be that the knights there are still able to spot us, if they would look in that direction, or not. In addition, they have a very important task, and therefore it's quite possible that they have been presented with the best equipment with the latest technology directly from Mechatropolis. Night vision devices. But when I look at these 2 chroma street lamps at the entrance to the passage there, they don't really need such effort. They should see enough, at least in their environment. And in the end, it's only the entrance that they have to guard anyway. It's almost strange that they didn't put up any light lanterns. These are something like their distinguishing mark. But I hardly assume that the guards don't want to freeze at night. Since white light does not emit any heat, they have to resort to the good old chroma shine. In addition, they would need a floodlight to illuminate the surroundings as much as the chroma glow up there now. But these lamps are huge. You must have seen them before when you were at the research station where your grandparents were held. These floodlights would definitely not be able to stand still in the sand. Well, I hope my explanation is enough of a reason for you, and you agree if we hide. You run to the rock and I follow your steps. I can hear excellently even at night, just like you, judging by my observations. I think your hearing is even a bit better than mine. Besides, you don't have to hold my hand and lead me to the rock, doll. It's a pity, don't you think? The healer grinned, but Cheyenne just sighed annoyed and ran off to the rock. Adocaz was the first one to reach the finish line and crouched on the ground. Then the girl arrived and crouched down next to the fairy wolf. Glaczio also managed to join the two, and together they waited for Sasha's diversionary maneuver. Cheyenne had a good view of the entrance to the sand passage, which was quite a distance from her current position. She and her 2 companions would have to run very fast as soon as Sasha appeared, and not take too long, for the sake of her friend and her own, because the knights would not be distracted forever. As they waited, Glaczio sighed and began to whisper. Sasha Mouse has really been through a lot. It fills my soul with joy that you two have become such good friends. She never had anyone but me. I always hoped that my sister would befriend her, but the two of them couldn't stand each other since the first moment they saw each other. Then my sister was often jealous of the cutie, because I spent much more time with her than with her. However, she was used to always doing everything together with me, so she decided to hate Sasha. She also didn't like her origins and her manner. My sister always said that this girl was below our level. By the way, Sasha Mouse also comes from the Undercity. Well, and so it turned out that she only had one friend, myself. I don't know why I made friends with her back then. I think I just felt sorry for her and I found herself somehow sympathetic when we saw each other for the first time. We were inseparable, even after she had been taken to the cursed laboratory. Every day I was with her and tried to keep her happy. You can't imagine how many times she narrowly escaped death. One day came this experiment, which now lets her change shape. That was a terrible time. I know Sasha said earlier that it was my fault, but that's not true. She just doesn't believe me the truth anymore. The data for that experiment came from my research, so far her statement is correct. At that time I was looking for a solution for the global aluminium shortage and was researching a aluminium structure converter. But the formulas I developed had a small flaw and I stopped working on them for some time and looked in the library in physics books for a solution to the problem. I left my documents in the laboratory, but the researchers stole them during my absence and built the machine I designed for structural transformation. However, I still don't quite understand why they tried an experiment with the finished device on Sasha. At least the researchers knew that my calculated data had a small error. Under these circumstances, I could still imagine they were succumbing to their stupidity and curiosity and wanted to test whether success could be achieved despite the mistake. But that would contradict the fact that they experimented with something alive, Sasha. This machine was only intended for corpses and superfluous objects, so that it can be converted into Earth's own aluminium structure faster and without deficits, so that no demons are created. Maybe they wanted to make me aware again that I should better be fully on the side of the light knighthood, and wanted to threaten me with this crazy action. I don't know. If the machine hadn't been faulty, it wouldn't have worked with living people in the first place, as they still have Umbrauro in them. The consequence of the act of these hollow-headed researchers was that the device that was built almost exploded. There was a fire. I don't even know if my research data still exists and the researchers have stowed it away somewhere, or if it was burned and that Sasha almost died. Her aluminium structure changed constantly after this experiment when she awoke from unconsciousness. In addition, she had some burn injuries that had further weakened her body. The worst part was that I couldn't help her with my healing spells. Her structure was too unstable. I had to let her suffer, and that was cruel for both of us. The reshaping cost her, unintentionally of course, an enormous amount of strength, and she often collapsed. I thought she wouldn't survive. But I didn't give up hope. I was with her every damn day and did my best to help her somehow. At night I dreamed of her suffering and heard her cries of pain. That wasn't very nice, I can tell you. But somehow she survived it and was able to control it at some point. And now she hates me. Only really for a year, and for something where she can really blame me for it, but still. She could be a little grateful to me after all. I did really everything possible for her. Now, if that was the only reason why she doesn't like me anymore, I'd be happy. But the cutie is damn resentful, at least towards me. Because there would be another thing, and now that I think about it, there are probably many more reasons to hate me in her eyes. She will surely tell you everything if she thinks it's the right time. At least I'm only partly to blame for this shape-shifting story. I should have hidden the data better. But that is now in the past and can no longer be changed. Cheyenne wanted to believe Glaczio what he said. If he was different in the past than he is today, and Sasha had been his best friend on top of that, it's hard to imagine that he would have voluntarily exposed her to such an experiment. She says that she doesn't believe him anymore, but I really don't want to interfere. If that was the only reason why she hates him, then I would tell her what he said, although she probably already knows that anyway. Oh, I'd rather stay out of it. The two of them have to sort it out themselves, at least I think. Adocaz whimpered and interrupted his owner's thoughts. Just then a gigantic, beautiful sea blue snake rose in front of the 5 guards, whose head was as big as a whole knight. "That's Sasha for sure. Wow, you don't even notice that she's not a real water creature. That's really fascinating." The sea serpent had a long whisker on each side of its pointed mouth. The blue fur, from which water beaded off, shone in the light of the chroma street lamps in the colors of a rainbow. The short fins shimmered just as colorfully, by which one could clearly see that this creature was a successor of the dragons, because those that grew on the back looked like small wings. Glaczio tapped Cheyenne on the shoulder. "Now or never, little angel." Then the girl got up, and together they all ran towards the entrance to the Sun Passage. This time, Adocaz preferred to follow his owner and her companion rather than run ahead. "Hopefully we can do it now." The sand under Cheyenne's worn shoes steadily slipped away, making it much harder for her to walk than usual. Normally she was a very fast sprinter, and even in races against Xaver she used to win consistently. However, she never had to run on such difficult terrain before. However, the girl was not the only one who had problems. Glaczio ran right by her side, tried to keep up, and the sandy ground slipped away under his feet. Cheyenne glanced back and saw that Adocaz, who was moving, almost jumping, was also struggling. Sometimes he even stumbled. The fine sand dusted up enormously behind them, but made almost no noise when you moved on it, a fact that proved to be a great advantage for the 3. The cold wind of the night blew through the girl's silky hair and sang her a tense, almost threateningly ominous song. The sea roared and the waves became wilder and more powerful. "This will make it much more difficult to get to the other side safely. Maybe we should have thought of something else and not just rushed things with the first plan that came along. But Glaczio's idea seemed to be the best and smartest. Oh, we'll make it. At least I hope so." In front of her, Cheyenne could already hear the growls and hisses of the sea serpent and realized that Sasha would not be able to distract the guards for much longer. The knights attacked her timidly, but strengthened by fear, and she had trouble dodging the weapons and arrows to avoid being hit by them. "Sasha won't put up with this for much longer. We have to run faster." Although Cheyenne's stamina was already slowly waning and her legs were now hurting as if they were burning, she managed to pick up speed again, and the entrance to the passage was getting closer and closer. The healer and the fairy wolf also continued to do their best, and they were also able to get a little faster. The girl was the first to enter the chroma shine. Now the knights would be able to spot her without any problems should they look in her direction. But just at that moment the sea serpent hissed and bit threateningly into the void right in front of the guards' heads. She bared her teeth and then growled again. The long tail was also used and just knocked over a knight. "Thank you, Sasha." Cheyenne tried to stop her heavy breathing and held her breath to be as quiet as possible, because the guards were only standing about 10 meters away from her. Glaczio seemed to have had the same idea. Adocaz simply ran along the water and overtook the girl to get out of the danger zone faster. Now they had actually reached the entrance to the passage and left the guards behind. Cheyenne began to breathe again, which was urgently needed because she had almost become dizzy, but she knew it wasn't over yet and had to keep running.